Hi everyone, today we will be working through servicing each component for the new Versamatic Valor pump. Let's get started. The tools you'll need include lithium grease, a pair of pliers, a small pick, snap ring pliers, a socket driver, a 1/2 inch socket, a 1/2 inch wrench, torque wrench, a 6-point 1 3/8 socket, a non-marring tool or vise. We will be using a pair of aluminum soft jaws, a 7/32 Allen socket, blue Loctite, and some shop towels or similar cleaning cloth. To perform the following maintenance procedures, you'll need the wet end kit and air end kit for your respective pump size, which can be purchased from your local Versa-Matic distributor. If the pump you'll be working on has come into contact with any hazardous materials or chemicals, please wear appropriate PPE such as nitrile gloves and eye protection. If it's not obvious to you, that's alright. The main air valve assembly is located in the center section of your pump and can be accessed by simply removing the cap screws, air inlet cap, and gasket. Beneath the gasket is the main air valve assembly, which you can now remove from the pump. Notice the 2 end caps on the air valve assembly. We're going to grab our pliers to remove those. First, twist the end cap counterclockwise to unlock it, and then pull the cap straight out of the assembly. Repeat this step for the second end cap. Then remove the sleeve from the air valve assembly and inspect the O-rings. Next, remove the spool from the sleeve and replace the O-rings and glide rings on the spool using a small pick. Replace them if needed. The O-rings and glide rings are the most likely component to wear out from general use, so these should be inspected for wear, nicks, and chips as part of a regular maintenance and replaced as needed using the appropriate wear kit. Also check the O-rings on each end cap for similar wear and replace if needed. Apply a light coat of lithium grease to the O-rings on both the spool and the sleeve. Then carefully slide the spool back into the sleeve, compressing each glide ring, and press the valve body down onto the sleeve. Replace the end caps on the top of the valve body first. The interlocking features should be sitting flat on the valve body plane. Use pliers to rotate the end cap 90 degrees clockwise into the locked position. We are going to use the snap ring pliers to remove the retaining ring from the valve body to gain access to the sleeve and spool set. And be sure to inspect the O-rings for any wear. To reassemble the sleeve and spool set, begin by pressing the sleeve into the air valve body. Then slide the spool into the pilot sleeve. Once fully seated, use the snap ring pliers to reinstall the retaining ring. We will start by removing the manifolds, balls, seat seals, seats, and one outer chamber using the 1/2 inch socket and 1/2 inch wrench. With access to the inside of the inner chamber, remove the diaphragm assembly. Please note that a pipe wrench is not recommended to remove the hex bolts on the outer diaphragm plate. The best tool options are an 1 3/8" 6-point socket. Once removed, begin the process on the outer chamber and diaphragm assembly. On the second side, you may remove the diaphragm assembly or diaphragm assembly connected to the rod. The diaphragm assembly includes the outer diaphragm plate, the diaphragm overlays if applicable, and the inner diaphragm plate. When removing the diaphragm assembly from the rod, we recommend using a vise with a set of aluminum soft jaws. This is to not scar or scratch the stainless diaphragm rod when using a vise. Any flaws, cracks, chips, or other scuff marks can cause the shaft to prematurely wear or damage the U-cup seals. Please use caution during this step. Once both diaphragm assemblies have been removed, look for cracks, wear, and chemical attacks on the diaphragms and rust deformities on the diaphragm rod. Also, inspect both inner and outer diaphragm plates for cracks, pitting, or other damage. Inspect outer radius of both plates for any sharp edges. You could re-establish the outer radius using emery paper, Scotch-Brite, or light sandpaper. This is to help prevent premature diaphragm failure. Clean or replace any or all parts as needed. Next, we will be removing the cap screws that hold the inner chamber to the center section using the 7/32" hex wrench. Next, remove the actuator pins, O-rings, and seals, and the U-cup seal from the center section. Thoroughly inspect each component for any signs of wear such as scuffs, scratches, tears, or warping and replace them as needed. To reassemble, first lubricate and then reinstall the U-cup seals, O-ring seals, and actuator pins back into the center section. Then place some blue Loctite on the threads of each cap screw and using the 7/32" wrench, reinstall the inner chamber to the center section. Once tightened, use the torque wrench to tighten each cap screw to 150 inch-pounds. Then flip the center section over and repeat each step on the opposite side. Lightly lubricate the inner or flat faces of both outer and inner diaphragm plates using a compatible lubricant. Note that when using PTFE overlay diaphragms, no lubricant is required and that water is recommended for EPDM diaphragms. Push the threaded stud of the outer diaphragm plate through the center hole of the diaphragm and then thread it into the inner diaphragm plate center hole with the hex facing outward. Note, the diaphragm should contact the flat surface of the inner diaphragm plate. Hold the inner diaphragm plate by the hex with a vise or similar non-marring tool. Tighten the outer diaphragm plate to 320 inch-pounds using a 6-point inch and 3/8 socket and torque wrench. Thread one diaphragm assembly onto the diaphragm shaft, making sure the inner diaphragm plate is fully threaded onto the shaft. Then insert one bumper onto the shaft. Install the diaphragm shaft assembly into the pump. On the other side of the pump, place the second bumper on the shaft and thread on the remaining diaphragm assembly. Use a 6-point inch and 3/8 socket and torque wrench to tighten that assembly to 320 inch-pounds and secure it by installing the outer chamber, aligning the suction and discharge ports with the intermediate. Discharge will face upward aligned with the intermediate pump tag. Next, install the second outer chamber to the pump assembly using a 1/2-inch socket and wrench to tighten the 8 socket cap bolts. Then use a 1/2-inch socket and torque wrench to tighten all 16 socket cap bolts to 150 inch-pounds in a star crossing pattern. Finally, replace the seats, seat seals, and balls and reassemble the manifolds. Using the 1/2-inch socket and torque wrench, tighten each of these bolts to 100 inch-pounds in a star crossing pattern. Properly align the gasket so that it fits into the unique features of the air valve body. These features will help to hold the gasket into place during reassembly into the pump. With the gasket installed, line up the valve body with the pump center section and slide it into place. Reinstall the outer gasket, air inlet cap, and reinstall the cap screws using a 1/2-inch socket to hold the air valve body securely in place. Tighten the cap screws with a 1/2-inch torque wrench to 150 inch-pounds. Your pump has now been fully serviced and is ready to get back to work. If you have any questions about this process or would like to learn more about the Valor pumps, please visit www.versamatic.com. We will see you the next time.